Hello everybody out there on the interwebs. My name is James Murua and welcome to the Writing Africa podcast, where we focus on African writers or writers of African origin. So either they are born in Africa or they have African roots. So, you may be either from the African continent or you may have family from Africa. So maybe you're Brazilian, you're Haitian, you are from the US, you're from Europe. But there's an African connection to your writing journey. Today, our focus is going to be on Rwandan-born French writer Beata Umubyeyi Mairesse. She's one of the most highly decorated Africans writing in French today. To support our project monetarily on Patreon, starting at $3 a month, on PayPal, Ko-fi, or on mobile money, you can get information on how to support our project at writingafrica.com/donate. And remember, we're not just a podcast, we're also a website. We've been doing a lot of coverage of what's been happening in African letters since we last did a podcast. Last weekend in Nairobi, we attended the Nairobi Book Festival. We had book launches, we had amazing panels, we had a lot of stuff. And we had a great time at the Alliance Française in Nairobi. A lot else been happening, not just a literary festival. We've had winners of awards being announced. The winners of the Sheikh Zayed Book Award, the Tuzo Nyerere Award. The Sheikh Zayed is writing in Arabic, and the Tuzo Nyerere is writing in Kiswahili. The debut Alexander Nderitu Prize for World Literature, they had a winner. We had the Prix Littéraire Montluc Résistance et Liberté. It's a prize in French. It's about texts that feature fighting for liberty. We had Prix Littéraire L'Afrique. That's an award for writers of French in Africa. And we had the Prix Fragonard de Littéraire Étranger. The Fragonard is a company that does fragrances in France. And so they have this prize where they focus on women that are writing in French or translated in French. All these categories had winners. We had shortlists for the Pan American Literary Awards. We had the shortlist for the International Publishers Association Prix Voltaire. Prix Voltaire is an award given to publishers who go above and beyond advocating for their writers, and they personally can get in trouble or they can struggle. Our friends from Nigeria, the Chika Onigwe Agwele Creative Trust Short Story Award, they announced their shortlist, and the Commonwealth Short Story Prize also announced their shortlist. The Commonwealth Short Story Prize is given out for a piece of fiction, and it's handed out in 5 regions, Africa, Caribbean, Canada, and Europe, and Pacific. Am I missing one? And then what happens is that 5 shortlistees are announced in each region, and then the winner wins £2,500 pounds, and then they go into a major competition, and then they win £5,000 as the global winner of the Commonwealth Short Story Prize. If you want to know what's happening, all this information I'm giving you, I recommend you go to writingafrica.com. So much happening in African literature, either based on the continent or Africans based in the diaspora or writers of African descent. Today, our focus is Beata Umubyeyi Mairesse. She was born in Butare, Rwanda in 1979, and she lived her life until the 1993 Rwandan genocide, which happened when she was a teenager living in Rwanda. And she fled to France in 1994. She moved to Bordeaux, and she studied political studies and worked for humanitarian causes, and she also started writing. We were first introduced to her at Writing Africa when she was one of the guests for the Afro Lit Sans Frontières, an online literary festival centering African writers and poets that propped up at the height of the COVID-19 epidemic. Afro Lit Sans Frontières was an amazing concept. Every month for about 6 months, writers would go online and they'd engage with with readers, and it's a very important platform for people to retain sanity both from the writing and the reader side. So when we met her at this platform, she had written quite a bit. She had written the short story collection Ejo. That collection had won the Francois Augueras Book Prize and the Ayers Book Prize. She had also written Les Ardeurs, which won the a Sierra Book Prize, and the Labotier Book Prize. She had also written the poetry collection Après les Progrès and the novel Tous les enfants dispersés. By the time we meet with her in 2020, she's already been producing quite a lot of work at a high level. We were really impressed with her, and I had a literary live stream that I was hosting between 2020 and 2022, and I invited her to talk about Francophonie literature in Africa and the diaspora. And this is one of the most well-spoken people you want to engage in life. I mentioned Tous enfants dispersés. In the book, her protagonist is Blanche. She returns to Rwanda after living a life in Bordeaux with her husband young Stan Stokely, and she reunites with her mother Immaculata. All wounds are reopened for both mother and daughter, while Stokely, caught between two countries, tries to understand where he comes from and where he belongs. This book was very well received. In 2020, it won the Continent's Prize, or Prix de 100 Continents de la Francophonie 2020. It was translated to All Your Children Scattered in 2022. I read the book. I loved it. It's not just functional prose because she's got a poetry background. She carries you with her prose, and you're enjoying yourself as you're going to the next twist and the next twist, and then of course the final plot twist. So if you ever get a chance to read, you only read in English. I only read in English. All Your Children Scattered. You want to check that book out. In 2022, she gave us a new novel, and this novel was called Consolé. I'll read the blurb. In Rwanda under Belgian guardianship, Consolé, the daughter of a white man and Rwandan woman, is taken from a black family and placed in an institution for mulatto children. Mulatto children is in quotes. 65 years later, Ramata, a 50-year-old of Senegalese origin, is doing art therapy internship in the nursing home in the southwest of France. There she meets Madame Astrida, an elderly mixed-race woman suffering from Alzheimer's disease who is losing the use of French and only speaks in an unknown language. In trying to piece together the puzzle for this woman, Ramata will find herself confronted with her own family destiny and difficulties of being black in France. A story of symbolic reparation and a rediscovered language, Consolé is a poetic, moving novel that resonates with the colonial past and the condition of the children of immigrants. So I haven't seen a translation of this yet, so I haven't read it. But if her previous work is any indication, this is a very good text. And for this one, she won Prix Croma in 2023 in Geneva. This is somebody who, by 2023, they're collecting awards like Thanos is collecting Infinity Stones. In 2024, she decided she's going to try her hand at writing nonfiction, and here she used a memoir. It talks about a 14-year-old Beata fleeing France with a Swiss-French envoy in 1994. So years later, a search for clues begins that lasts more than a decade and raises questions about the power of Western media, personal memories, and more. She talks about survivors of the genocide and the Tutsi aid workers, journalists, in order to reconstruct the events. She goes back to June 1994 when she was fleeing the country, and she tries to reconstruct, that part of her life. That memoir has been doing quite well. It's won Prix France Televisions. A few weeks ago, it won the Franz Hessel Prize for Contemporary Literature at the Leipzig Book Festival. I mean, just for her body of work, she was recently featured for the Grand Prix La Lorraine, Madame Figaro. Madame Figaro, as you know, is a very famous magazine in France. And if you love reading, and you read in French, really, mainly in French, Beata Umubyeyi Mairesse is one of the best people you can get a hold of. If you only read in English, All Your Children Scattered, to my knowledge, is what's available. But we are expecting a translation of Le Convoi to be coming out in October or November in this year. So ladies and gentlemen, please check out Beata. You're not going to lose out. You're going to get one of the best writers out there in French.